Hello, my loves. I am coming to you with a mid-month energy update. This isn't going to be a long broadcast, but I do want to discuss a few things that I have been seeing, visually, feeling, and receiving. And I want to just kind of let you know where we're at and what we're about to step into. So as you're hopping on, say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. Hashtag it replay. I'm going to take a second to, there it is, share this broadcast into one of my groups. And if this resonates with you, if I can figure out how to share my own thing, isn't that silly? If this resonates with you, if you appreciate these updates, then please give me a share and spread this message far and wide, because we all are looking for guidance. We're all looking to figure out what's happening and what's about to happen, because we feel that uncertainty inside of us. We all feel that uncertainty inside of us. We all feel like there's this pressure building and something's about to happen, but we don't know when and we don't know what's going to happen. And so we allow our mind to run rampant. We have all these fears that take over, and we create these scenarios inside of ourselves. We create these stories as a way of trying to make logical sense of what we're sensing and feeling. And what we don't realize is, in doing that, we're actually creating a dimension. We're actually creating a reality. We're actually creating the very thing that we don't want to happen. Hi, Carissa. So I mentioned before in a post a couple of days ago that we are going to be having like an intermission, right? This is like the space between. It's like the calm before the storm. And so even though the energy is still quite intense right now, at least in the sense of what I'm feeling, the intensity isn't necessarily a bad thing. I've been in the thick of it over this last week, and I've also had the bliss of it this week. And on Sunday, we had actually Saturday going into Sunday, we had the new moon portal open. And in that became an ushering of energies. And this Leo new moon that we are in today, right now, is probably a bigger setup than the Lion's Gate energy. The Lion's Gate energy has really been, we had a peak of it, but this is like coming out of the birth canal of that energy, of that activation. And so this new moon is really this, everything leading up to it and everything leading up after it. This is like the calm before everything gets flipped upside down. And what I mean by that is what we're going to be going into. And please hear me when I say this. This is not to invoke fear. This is not to create worrisome. This is me sharing a perspective and truth that is coming through to me. Okay. And these are potentials. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But what I mean by flipped upside down is this new moon is birthing us, opening us up into seeing and hearing and experiencing at some level some of our very deepest wounds. And when I say deepest wounds, these are the roots. These are the bottom of the well. These are some really big triggers that will be happening. So in the calm for the storm, this week, really this week is going to feel like, okay, I can breathe. Like there's not a lot going on. It may feel like the void, like I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't really have a direction to go in. I don't really feel called to do something. Or it could be the exact opposite. This is really going to be depending on where your level of consciousness is and where you are in your journey. Okay. And that's why I have to give this and that. I have to give both perspectives, because not everybody's going to be in the same space. And I'm able to see that. I'm able to see that my audience, the people who come to me, some of them are brand new in their awakening, and some are far more advanced. Some are at my level or even beyond, to be honest. So in this new moon energy, this week is really going to feel like the space between the calm before the storm. Like, yes, okay, things are okay. I don't feel that intensity. right? You may feel really good and inspired and creative and going and flowing and thinking, yes, this is great. This is what I've been looking for. And some of you may be like, I feel no motivation at all. I don't feel like I need to do anything. I don't feel like I want to do anything. And so the point of me telling you that is to honor wherever you are, because there is a purpose to it. And for some of you, this past week and a half, and moving forward through the end of this month is going to be, maybe you get really sick, or maybe you lose a loved one, or maybe you lose a job, or maybe that big traumatic thing happens that completely flips your life, that allows you to start to grieve other aspects of you, that starts to allow you to see that you're transitioning into that next phase of your evolution. And so you want to give yourself grace and space to go through whatever it is that you're going through at whatever level you're going through it at. And as I mentioned in my original August energy update, we have a 10-day energy portal. And that is going to start in about 2 to 3 days. It's hard because time doesn't exist, right? So I'm trying to give you guys a linear perspective of something that happens, that's happening already, that's happening right now. But the influx, it's going to be like someone broke the dam loose, is probably a better way to say it. It's going to be somebody broke the dam loose. And that dam, that imagine a dam breaking and that water just consuming and plowing and filling up all that is underneath it, all that's on the other side of it. That's what's going to be happening during this 10-day portal. It's going to be literally the dam breaking, and this, instead of it being water, it's going to be consciousness streaming in, photonic light. We have, and I've talked about this several times, and I'm not an astrologer, but I am connected, physically connected. We all are physically connected to the planets. And so we have these huge planetary alignments that are happening, that are coming really close and at certain peaks, right? So they're trining, they're coming into tight conjunctions at certain points and creating further activations. It's actually designed that way. It began in March, and it goes like this, and they have different peak levels, right? And I couldn't articulate it in that way because I'm not an astrologer, but I found a really good article about this grand conjunction that's happening in December, which again lines up with what I was feeling, that there was going to be a massive shift between December and January, right? In the middle of each month, in that time frame, there was going to be a massive shift. And so we've had these pivotal points of intensity throughout the year, because otherwise it would be like 10 dams breaking all at once, if not more. We have to do it in small chunks. So why 2020 is such a pivotal year is because there's having all of this happen over the course of this year. And honestly, it's going to be over the course of the next few years, but it's actually going to be more of in a rebuilding phase sooner than later versus the deconstruction phase. But it's a matter of how quickly we allow ourselves to deconstruct without having resistance to it. So I want to talk about these points of intersection that we're feeling, right? So coming this 10-day portal, the faucets are going to be turned on. This is a ton of photonic light coming through. And that photonic light has information from consciousness, from all different points and intersections of all that is. And it's coming in and it's hitting each person differently. So as that light streams into you, right, having certain connections with certain planetary alignments, this is what they showed me so that I could try to explain it in a way that is more human, that people could understand it. So I want you to think of the planets as an aspect of you. And when a certain time frame comes around, it hits a point in your chart where you are now supposed to feel something, where you are now supposed to evolve, where you need to be triggered, like the sitting at a stoplight and it going from red to green. Now it's your time. So now you can go forward. But going forward is going to feel like a push from behind, like somebody coming and pushing you through that intersection, right? So as the certain planetary alignments happen, this is why we have these big things and certain people don't feel anything. And some people are like, oh my God, every moon, every Saturn, every Pluto, my head hurts, my back hurts, certain parts, I get super sick, whatever the case may be, where you're feeling the physical ascension symptoms where someone else is not. And that's because those intersecting points are flowing photonic light, streaming all the water from that energy breaking right through your filters. And what's your filter? Your filter is like the sediment and the rock. So as water filters from natural springs, it goes through rock and sediment and many, many, many layers, charcoal, whatever. And it filters it, it cleans it. And it comes out the other end and it's pure water with lots of nutrients and lots of wisdom filled with minerals. So photonic light is the same thing. Photonic light is going to be streaming in and it's going to start coming into your physical being, which is what's ascending. Our consciousness is not ascending. Our physical body is what is ascending. So these certain planetary alignments line up, right? It streams that all directly into you. So now it's like someone trying to faucet over your head. And now it's got to filter through your rock, your sediment. And your rock and sediment is your beliefs, your trauma, your wounds, your programming, your conditioning, what you've been taught, what's come down epigenetically through your whole entire line of ancestry. How tight you hold on to those beliefs or fears or programming, or how much resistance you are to a different understanding, or just experiencing it and feeling it, is how much you are going to suffer or not. It doesn't mean you won't still have discomfort. It doesn't mean you still won't have pain in the body, because the physical body is what's ascending. It's upgrading. It's like a computer software or your phone, right? It's going through an upgrade. And sometimes those upgrades, you're like, God, this upgrade is taking 2 hours. Okay, now put that in a physical sense. Maybe this upgrade is going to take you 2 weeks. Maybe this upgrade is going to take you an hour. Maybe this upgrade is going to take you 24 hours. But as that light streams in, your density, your filter, your rock and sediment is again your trauma, your beliefs, your programming, your patterning, your conditions, your lineage. And as it hits it, if you are really stuck in your ways, or you are in resistance to feeling it, let me say that again. If you are in resistance to feeling it, meaning you're trying to fix it, disassociate from it, repress it, reject it, escape from it, numb it, then it's going to be like hitting a wall. And it's going to create even more suffering. It's going to create even more pain in your physical body. And that can also show up in your external reality. I wasn't even planning on talking about that aspect, but obviously there's people that needed to hear that, because it's the understanding of how everything is energy. My hair is energy. My skin is energy. My nails are energy. My watch is energy. The chair I'm sitting in is energy. And it's all not just energy, it's conscious energy. It has a consciousness. And that consciousness changes based upon our belief system. So with that said, I have been seeing some very unpleasant, to say it nicely, images of what's to come. And I am not given a timing. I have had a few people who have been seeing similar images reach out to me. And I will not, if you end up being one of these people, I will not tell you what I'm seeing. But if you are getting that and you tell me what you're seeing, I will confirm or deny. But that's not my point. Please do not blow me up, because this is not what this is about. And I probably won't answer you. But I had a few select friends that are at a capacity, an understanding to have that conversation with. But I want to be clear about, I have been seeing some very unsettled images, very uncomfortable images of what to come, but I do not have a timing. And I say that because if you are somebody that gets timing, and I get timing this way too, through seeing images of children's ages or like your own children's ages or seasons or places you would normally go, or you have markers that will give you timing. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's that for this year, right? It could be that 3 years from now, because again, everything's happening in the now. Everything's happening simultaneously. So it's really hard for me to take understanding coming through from the ancients or the Galactic Federation or the ninth dimensional Pleiadians and say that this is the timing they're giving me, because they don't really have a concept of that time. Okay. But what I can tell you is I do feel like it's going to happen this year, and it's going to be something that really shakes you to your core. And what I mean by that is it's going to invoke scarcity. It's going to invoke your fears of survival. And I want to tell you what you have to do. If and when this happens, if and when an event happens this year that invokes your survival. Now, that could be very different for each person. When you see this unfolding collectively, when you see this unfolding for another family, when you feel this unfolding for yourself, or you're triggered by what you see, you aren't to fix it. You aren't to protest against it. You're not meant to fight with it. And if that's what ends up happening, please know that you're okay, because maybe the only thing that you can do to give yourself relief in that moment is to fight. Maybe the only thing that you can do to give yourself some relief is to disassociate, is to distract yourself, is to numb yourself. But there's going to come a point in intensity, because remember, it will keep coming until you finally sit with it and face it. This energy doesn't just go away. You can take the time of being in reaction and resistance to it and fighting and protesting and yelling on social media and being pissed off. Anger it's an important emotion to go through. There is going to be there may be a time where the best way for you to find relief is to sit on social media all day on TikTok and distract yourself, or to watch Netflix, or to drink, or to eat, or to smoke weed, or whatever it is that you need to do. But please know that that's going to run its course, and the intensity is still going to be there waiting for you. And I don't want you to judge yourself for what you have to do to survive that moment. But if you have courage, because it takes courage to walk this path, it takes courage to be a human. It's funny, I was just with a student before this, and we come from source where everything is yes, and where we have this ability to shapeshift and to have instant manifestation, and to literally think a thought and then align with that thought and experience it, right? And then we come to understand ourselves and understand, this is consciousness understanding itself, and we get placed in the contrast, in the polar opposite. So we come into, we're born into a world that's like, no, you don't even get to be heard. You don't even get to be seen. We don't even get to entertain that. We're born into the polar opposite of what we came to experience and connect to. And so because of that, I was laughing with her, and I said, the real hell, the real fire, the real shortcut is coming to Earth. There are beings that have never experienced being human, and that never will experience being human, because becoming a human, being here at this time, being here during this great shift, this great awakening that you all signed up for, even if you don't remember that, is the biggest shortcut of them all. It is the biggest accelerator of your consciousness, the biggest expander of your consciousness. And so I told her, I said, shit, every day we should wake up and be like, yeah, girl, you got courage to be here. Being a human takes courage. We didn't come here for it to just be amazing and blissful and abundant, even though that is a potential. We have that as energetic beings. So please know that we came to have a physical experience for our greatest expansion. So how do we not allow the fear to take us over? How do we look at what's happening? How do we look at the store shelves going barer and barer? How do we look at the violence that's happening in the world? How do we look at these explosions and the curtain being pulled back on what's being purged to the surface? Because if you were on my 2-hour live event, what did I talk about? How the darkness that we are seeing, the pedophilia, the adrenochrome, all of that stuff is just people trying to get their needs met in a way that is not that is serving consciousness as a whole. They don't know how to sustain. They don't know how to meet their own needs. So they are using other people, places, and things in a way that is not serving to everybody else to meet their needs. And a lot of them don't even realize that that's what's happening, that they have this trauma inside of them of needs that weren't met, and they have to get them met. We all go through this cycle. We have all had lives in that type of energy of some sort or another, of not necessarily saying you had that, you did those things, but you know what I mean, of getting your needs met. If you're a baby and you can't communicate to your mom that you are visually seeing a being behind you, or that you're hungry, or that you need your diaper being changed, the path of least resistance is to sit there and scream, is to cry bloody murder because you're saying, you're not meeting my needs. And the mom's sitting there scratching her head going, I don't understand. I don't know how to meet their need. So that's all that's happening. It's people who have turned away from source and serving anyone other than themselves and saying, I just need to get my needs met. And this is why they keep doing the same bad behavior, because they feel powerless. And so they're going to react to the powerlessness and take their power back by overpowering, by taking from other people. This is what crime is. When somebody murders somebody or robs somebody or rapes somebody, they are responding, they're reacting from their own internal trauma. And they're saying, I feel so powerless in this moment that I have to go to the other extreme and take my power back. And I have to keep doing it because I haven't found the source of my powerlessness. They have not tuned in. They haven't turned into the God within them to find out where they have lost their power, where they have given away their power. They haven't gone through that process of reclaiming the lost parts of themselves, the fragments, the splits in their consciousness. So moving forward, there are potential timelines that have us looking a little scary, no matter what dimension your consciousness is in. You may be able to look at what's happening from that perspective of, I understand what's happening and I know it's happening for the greater good, but there is still going to be a human part of you that's going to need to process what you're seeing, because it's never this or that. It is always this and that. We have to honor the fact that we never die, but we have to honor the fact that humans do die. Being a teacher that speaks of this truth makes my job difficult, because here I am trying to explain something in quantum theory or esoteric, and also having to explain it in a human form with compassion. So what you see moving forward, the things that are happening, I want you to focus not on what's happening, because what's happening is going to happen whether you react to it or not, whether you respond to it or not, whether you fight with it or not, whether you protest about it, whether you hide from it. This deconstruction is going to happen. Okay? So when it's happening, all we are being asked to do is to see the pain, to feel the pain. Why do you think people have the wounds of not being seen or not being heard? because they were the baby screaming their head off, and mom did not understand what the need that wasn't being met was. Or a child coming to you at the age of 3 in utter distress over something that as a logical adult is like, oh, why is this child freaking out about this? That's no big deal. No, honey, you're fine. You're okay. You're all right. You don't need to be this upset over that. That's no big deal. To that child, it's a fucking huge deal. But you didn't like the uncomfortableness of seeing that child in pain. And so you chose to try to fix it instead. I am so guilty of this. I have done this. As my humans chiming in. I've done this with my husband. I've done this with my kids. I've done this with my animals. Because seeing other people in pain triggers our own pain, and that is what we don't want to feel. We don't want to feel our own pain. And so our first instinct is, I got to fix this. I got to make it better. I got to make you better. I have to fix you. I have to calm you. I have to fight against you. This isn't fair. I have to do all of these things. I have to get angry. Maybe you go into victim. Whatever. I want you guys, when you're seeing this stuff, I want you to tune into you. And I want you to ask yourself, what is your body filling up with right now? What is your cup filling up with? Is it anger? Is it sadness? Is it wanting to escape? Is it wanting to disassociate? Are you coming out of your skin? Are you stiff? Are you frozen? Pay attention to what is happening inside of you. And it's an invitation. A trigger is an invitation to sit your butt down and to hold space for yourself. To feel and allow yourself to be safe enough to feel. Not to bring in your inner coach, not to bring in my voice, not to bring in your mom and dad's voice, not to bring in your friend's voice or society's voice of what you're supposed to do. This is all happening for a reason. Of course it is. But don't use that to bypass it. Can you allow yourself to be in that energy of being the victim? Can you allow yourself to sit with yourself in private and allow yourself to get out what needs to be expressed, to see your pain, to hear your pain? Because you are the micro of the collective macro, and we shift together. What I have been assured of is that this is a part of the process. This is what we signed up for. This is the evolution. But what I talked about earlier, what you focus on, you create, right? So when you're feeling the uncertainty of what's coming and you allow your mind to create scenarios, I want to tell you something. We have complete dimensions of realities that were simply created by human thought. Have you ever heard the term thought form? What is a thought form? If you give enough focus to a thought, it will take on form. Why? Because it starts with a thought and we attach an emotion. And what is emotion? It's energy in motion. So now here we are with this thought funneling energy directly in motion to that thought. And then what happens? It takes on a physicality. It takes on a form. We have entire realms of lack and scarcity created from human thought form alone. So when I tell you that how we heal this, how we shift, how we come back into a synergy together, before we can even come into unity, we have to come into synergy. And we do that by stopping our humanness from trying to escape this. And by sitting with ourselves, holding space for ourselves, and allowing ourselves to hear and feel the very things that we are afraid of. Because we're never afraid of the dark. We're never afraid. I've been saying this for years. We're never afraid of the dark. We're afraid of what's in the dark that we can't see. Can you allow yourselves in uncertainty to sit there and say, I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know that what I focus on has a direct effect on what happens next. So when you see the things being revealed, when you see the last of that underbelly of trauma being purged to the surface, when you see loss of life and scarcity being used, you can look at that and you can say, okay, this invokes scarcity in me. I am afraid right now. I feel disempowered. I feel powerless. You can admit to it and you can sit with yourself and you can feel it and you can say, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to come next. I don't know if tomorrow what's going to happen. But what I do know is that uncertainty is a black chalkboard. So where are my thoughts going? And how can I communicate with those thoughts and hear them out and allow them to feel safe, to have themselves expressed so that I can say, you know what? You're right. That's a possibility. That scary thought is a possibility. Thank you for keeping me safe. Thank you for warning me. But today, let's try something different. Today, let's look at what other opportunities, what other potentials are available. It could also be this. It could also be me creating this. And you get to choose in that moment what you funnel all your emotions to, all your energy to. What thought are you going to give focus to? Because this personally has been weighing on me. And I had to sit with it and say, why am I being shown these images if I can't control it? If I can't warn people of what I'm seeing, or if I can't do anything to mitigate it? And the response was, your job is not to do that. Your job is to help people move out of fear, how to grieve. And that grieving process is different for everybody. And there are phases. And being a victim, being angry, being sad are part of it. So when you see yourselves getting super angry, when you see yourselves being an emotional wreck, instead of judging yourself and spiraling out of control, if you can simply have enough awareness and enough presence to acknowledge, I'm grieving right now, and this is just how I'm grieving, and allow yourself the space to express it in a safe way, you will move through it very quickly. So again, I don't have a time for you, and I don't want you to be looking or waiting for the shoe to drop. I want you to turn to that uncertainty within you. And I want you to say, what am I really afraid of here? What do I not want to feel? Do I feel powerless right now? Do I feel disempowered? Do I feel scared? Do I feel whatever? And then give yourself the space to communicate. This is what I do, you guys, in private mentorship. I hold that space for you, and we find those aspects of you, and we communicate with those aspects of you. Those are your soul fragments that you disassociated from. And sometimes we can have hundreds or thousands of them. And one fragment can have its own family of 100 fragments, right? Seems overwhelming, but once you start going through it, it becomes super easy to start integrating those aspects of you. But this is what it's about. And you don't have to hire me to do this. If you have enough presence and awareness, you can do this yourself. But it helps to have someone to hold space for you. So even if you have a friend, and you communicate with those aspects of yourself, you have a full conversation with a part of you that is in fear, the part of you that's in resistance. And maybe you have a full conversation with the part of you that's like, everything's perfect, love and light. Just meditate it away, or just go be of service. That will help. Just see the higher perspective. Because when you're disassociating and living in higher self, everything is grand. Everything is perfect. Even murder is perfect because you know it's all happening for the expansion of consciousness. But on the human side, the flip side, it's not perfect. It's messy and painful. And I talked about this in the live event too. Remember, structure, flow, first 7 years, second 7 years, third 7 years. This is coming into the thick of it, the intense part of this. You think we've been through intense parts, you haven't seen nothing yet. So if you want to read that article, I posted it on my business Facebook page. It was a great article about the grand conjunction of Mars and Pluto and Jupiter. Mars has been a huge player this year. Mars has a lot to do with the sciatica, hemorrhoids, lower back issues, all of that. Mars is the activator, right? So a lot of people are having Kundalini awakenings right now. A lot of people are having suffering right now. Mars's double-edged sword is it's going to be a jetpack to catapult you forward. And if you're in resistance to that forward motion, those G forces, it's going to hurt. It's going to be like getting railroaded or bulldozed. Jupiter's the expander. Pluto is the transformer of your deepest rooted traumas. And that's why at the beginning of this year, I said, this year of 2020, is about you knowing who the hell you are. Creating the structure that I talked about, which is your boundaries. Your boundaries is not a fence. It is the structure of who you are. What you like, what you don't like. What you'll tolerate, what you won't. Who you want to be with, who you don't want to be with. What your needs are, what your desires are. It's becoming an utterly knowing yourself. Because that's how you trust yourself, is by knowing yourself. And that way, when someone comes to you and tempts you with something, you trust that I don't need to do that to make that person love me or accept me. I know what my needs are, and I choose not to have them met through that path or that person or that thing. So it's going to be pretty intense points through the rest of this year. And like I mentioned at the beginning of August on my original energy update, about mid-December through mid-January is when I'm feeling a big shift. And at this moment in time, and this can change because depending on what the collective does and how people respond or react, it's going to change the outcome of anything. So as of this moment, I feel like that shift's going to be the start of the rebuilding. Doesn't mean there still won't be destruction happening, but it will be a turning point where we begin the rebuilding process in some aspect, shape, or form. But it's going to probably be a little dramatic. I mean, would you expect anything less from 2020? So I was really feeling called to come on there because, you know, when we talk about grief, when you're done being angry, when you go through these phases of victimization where you feel like you're the victim, right? And so sometimes you have revenge. Sometimes it's a reason why when we're in pain, we project our pain. And when something happens to trigger and we respond through reaction, That reaction is a defense mechanism. It's a ping pong, right? So that's us taking that bat and swatting it back and saying, no, I don't want this pain. I'm going to project it at you. And that person picks up their ping pong and they're like, no, I don't want that pain. Throws it back at you. And so we have this war going on inside of us and outside of us of, here's your pain, look at it. No, I don't want to look at the pain. Pushing it away. Here's your pain, look at it. No, I don't want to look at the pain. So that inner conflict is happening inside of you, but it's also being projected at a collective level outside of you. So the way that we stop this exhausting inner conflict is to stop trying to escape it and to simply look at what's happening and say, if this is something that's triggering you, if this is something that you're feeling, then it means that you need to sit and feel it. Because honestly, all we are required to do is to feel and see the pain of where we were and what we went through, because it is in the feeling of it that it neutralizes it. Because as we hold space for ourselves, we're saying, I'm not trying to fix this. I'm not trying to make this better. I'm just going to sit here with you in the dark and allow you to feel this. And as you go deeper and deeper into it, it will begin to lift. Because honestly, there's nothing for you to do but feel it. That's why I'm always saying you got to feel it to heal it. You got to be willing to see your pain, to hear the aspects of you. And what it is in your willingness to have empathy and compassion to sit with yourself and to do this, or to have a mentor to sit with you and do this, or a friend to sit with you and do this, who's not going to fix you, who's just going to hold space for you, which is even hard sometimes for me to do. I am a human. I am not perfect, and I will never tell you that I am. It's instinct. It's protection mechanisms. It's our defense mechanisms. But as you go, you get better of just saying, what do you need right now? How can I help you get your needs met? In fact, it's something that we all should start doing, instead of when somebody comes to us and complains, or it comes to us and cries to us or says they're hurting, we should say, what needs can I meet for you? Is there a need that I can meet for you? What are your needs? Let me tell you if I can meet any of those. And maybe that need is, I just want you to listen. Or maybe that need is nothing. You listening to me is all of it. Or maybe I need some soup, or maybe I do need some advice. I love that came through, because it's something I'm going to use. So these are food for thoughts. This is way more than I actually thought, longer than I thought it would be on. So I've got to wrap this up, but I just wanted to bring this update and let you guys know that there is some big stuff coming. But if you don't want to be a victim of your fear, if you don't want to be held captive by your fear and uncertainty, this live is what you want to watch over and over again until you've got it into your head of what you need to actually do as it approaches. Okay? So I love you guys. If this resonated, if you want to share this message, I would appreciate it. Get everyone out there this information so that they can help themselves as well. And I will see you next time. Bye.